Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Flesh Wound Farce. This is the world's first and only combination trivia host and professional wrestling announcer of Chilean descent that currently resides in Southern California, Ozzy V. And with me, as always, on the program is first in the Northern Bay Area, Greg.
Right, hey, how's it going,
hello,
Ozzy?
Greg. We're doing the Brady Bunch thing here for the ones watching the video feed, but not the podcast feed. You can choose your format, of course. Also, Flesh Wound producer Todd. How are you?
What's up?
Chilling, as always. So, ladies and gentlemen, on this fabulous episode, we will review and talk about the wonderful 1980 film CADDYSHACK, directed by Harold Ramis, also starring Chevy Chase, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight, Michael O'Keefe, Bill Murray. Now, what's unfortunate, I just want to say right off the bat that Michael O'Keefe is the caddy and the main character of the film. Yet the surrounding cast was
look at the surrounding cast.
It wasn't as anticipated, and it's interesting. There's on the DVD. There's a 19th hole retrospective documentary about it, and they talked about how they were writing more scenes because they had all these actors, and once they had them on the set, and once they saw them work with each other, especially Bill Murray and Chevy Chase, in one particular scene, when he finds him in his humble abode, Carl.
I believe they're only seen together too.
Yes, that's true. Now there is a TV version. Apparently, on certain TV versions that cut out the Baby Ruth scene, the swimming pool. Yeah, there's some TV stations that cut that out, but they replaced it with a scene that's Bill Murray driving one of those giant, like, 6-arm lawnmowers, right? And he actually goes to pick up Ty, Chevy's character. He gives him some hints on how to hit, right? And then he goes to give him a ride somewhere. And he tells him right before they film, he says, "Hey, I'm wearing cleats." This is Chevy telling Bill, "I'm wearing cleats. They have the metal spikes in them. I don't have a good grip on this thing, so don't make any sudden movements." And of course, what does he do? He takes the sharpest right turn you could ever take. He had to jump over all the blades to avoid getting hit. So I'm sorry, I kind of jumped in a lot. I mean, there's kind of a lot to cover, but I just jumped in with some stuff that's still fresh in my mind. I'll let you guys talk for a little bit, or else I can go for days with this movie.
Yeah, 40 years old. I'm just like, damn. I'm actually really interested, Greg. I mean, I've always loved this movie. I mean, we won't talk about the sequel.
There is no sequel.
Okay, we'll go with that. Yeah. So, Greg, what did you think? I'm most interested since it was your first full-time viewing.
Well, first off, I'm glad I didn't know there was a sequel, and I promise I never will from here on out. But
unless you're a Jackie Mason fan.
So, there was a lot of hype to this movie because everything I've heard is it's like one of the funniest movies and greatest comedies of all time. And it feels dated just from how it's shot, but you have to keep that in mind throughout it all. But the number one thing I didn't know, like I personally thought the major part of this movie was Bill Murray and that gopher. Like that's all I'd really heard of this movie. What I didn't know was the tornado of Rodney freaking Dangerfield. That man steals a scene every time he is involved with anything, and it was a force to be reckoned with. So I thoroughly enjoyed watching it.
I'm with you. One thing I have to call out because he's one that often doesn't get the praise he deserves. Ted Knight kills it in this too.
Absolutely. He's the one. I can understand someone's fictional or not. I can understand someone's intense amount of rage that they want to display, and I felt that that he nailed
You
it
related.
so well. Oh, we're totally related. The one specific scene, one of my favorite spots is when he sits down. Ted Knight plays Judge Smales, and he sits across from the main character, played by Danny Noonan, Michael O'Keefe, or rather, Bryce Fett, played by Michael O'Keefe, Danny Noonan. There's a lamp in between them, and they're trying to have a conversation with this lamp in the way, and the judge just gets angry and just throws it out of the way. But then he goes back to being calm. Like, yeah, I get that.
and just I know this is gonna date our podcast, but we're just coming off the recent election, 2020 election, and there was a great meme done using him where it had the counts because we've been waiting a few days, and he goes, well, we're waiting, and it was just perfect that we just watched this, and yeah, it was super fitting.
So actually, before I jump in, I just want to read, just in case somebody's just like listening and they're not sure if they want to watch this or not. I'm just going to read the back of the DVD cover real quick. Greenskeeper Carl Spackler is about to start World War III against a gopher. Pompous Judge Smales plays to win, but his nubile niece, Lacey Underall, wants to score her own way. Playboy Ty Webb shoots perfect golf by becoming the ball. And country club loudmouth Al Cerveric just doubled a $20,000 bet on a 10-foot putt. Insanity? No. Caddyshack. Chevy Chase, Rodney Dangerfield, Bill Murray, and Ted Knight tee off for a side-splitting round of fairway foolishness that does for golf what National Lampoon's Animal House did for fraternities and Police Academy did for law enforcement. With Harold Ramis directing, the virtuoso comic skills of all four blend into a riotous hole-in-one for comedy fans. 100%. And I love rest his soul, or rest in peace. Watching Harold Ramis talk about it on the documentary is a lot of fun because he displays that there was such, like, he thought the movie was going to get canned like so early on, and didn't expect. I mean, obviously, when stuff blows up like this, nobody expects it. But
the one thing I noticed now watching it is you can see how it's very segment. Like you go segment. It's the narrative is there, but it's a lot of like bits as you go.
Also, what's interesting is they talk about how, like, the majority of Bill Murray's lines were improvised. A lot of the time, they just kept the camera on Bill Murray to just see what he would do, right?
Yeah.
It's that they use a lot of that footage. Chevy Chase did a lot of improvising as well, not as much, but he would do a lot of improvising off script. It was Rodney Dangerfield that needed to have word for word, like comma, period, exclamation, that specifically he needed to know exactly what he was going to say. And what Harold Ramis said was that he would go over to his trailer, his house or whatever, and the night before go over the scenes and even maybe add some new jokes in, but all his jokes had to be in the script, like while everybody else was, I shouldn't say everybody else, primarily like Bill Murray and Chevy Chase, and the Sarah Holcomb. She also adding some improv. She actually said one thing in the documentary. The great thing about, if you're trying to do comedy, don't take the joke, set it up for the joke. Let somebody else. And like they showed a particular clip where she says, my uncle, I can't remember what the line is. I should have written this one down because I had so much written down. Actually, I didn't think I was going to write this one down as well. But he basically just, your uncle molests his clients or something like that. the Chevy Chase just right under his breath, like some of my favorite ones. I mean, I know like we have favorite jokes or whatever, but I had like a lot of the Chevy Chase scenes made me laugh out loud really hard. And it seems like a lot of these things that you've seen him do before, like Saturday Night Live, or like thank you very little, or the noises during the putts. No. But then the one that misses, it's just the one the swerve. That's not that one, right? Or when he's in Carl's garage or house or whatever, and Carl says, "Oh, I know it's not much. What do you think?" He says, "Oh, it's really awful." You know, just-
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was actually curious, having not watched the documentary part of it. When I watched it, I thought to myself, Rodney Dangerfield, that looks like something he would just do in his stand-up, like just find people, the restaurant scene, like just find people and walk by and do his own commentary and riffing the whole thing. And I thought that for sure has to be improv, but like to have said like that's shocking knowing who he was.
Well, this is also his first feature, so he was like learning as he
Okay.
went.
That makes sense.
And he was actually very nervous when filming because there would be so many comics that would come to watch him do his scenes, and they couldn't laugh because of, it was Mike. So he told there was another cast member asked like, "Hey, what's going on?" Because he started sweating like after the third take. He says, "Man, I'm bombing out there." But in actuality, it's because they couldn't laugh.
Right.
It was so tough to. I mean, it was almost overwhelming to see so many people that were just equally talented doing their own things. And you know what I found very interesting about Carl's character is I really felt that was the predecessor to Charlie Day or Charlie. Is it Day? What's his real name is Charlie Day.
Yeah.
But in the what's in Always Sunny, his last name? You know what I'm talking about? Charlie from It's Always Sunny. That totally, it felt like that same kind of character. Like Charlie's character is a variation. Could be Carl's kid easily. And I completely died laughing when he takes the leaf blower. He's all right. I'm going to clean up. I lost it. So I've talked about some of my favorite lines. I still have ones that I didn't say, but I'll leave that for you guys just in case you do. What are your favorite jokes or lines from this?
So I do have to say, like, it was tough, like, and to pick a favorite. So I think
I couldn't. Like I said, I just wrote down and I just listed off a ton of stuff.
Right. So in the spirit of this movie was funny, I'm still gonna say 2. I don't care. We're gonna break the rules. So I was torn, and there's the initial, like, when Rodney Dangerfield goes and hits, he goes 4 and hits the guy in the balls with the ball. He goes, I guess I should have said 2. Like, that was brilliant. But then, like, the other moment hands down, which, so just some insight. I ended up watching this movie with my wife, my brother-in-law, and my sister-in-law. We were all having a great time. And the scene that we were all just dying was one of the final scenes. And the person who does not get enough credit is that judge at the end when everything is exploding and he is just focused on that hole. Like, nothing will change this guy's perspective. He's got a job to do, and he's going to get it done. We were all dying with his commitment to his job. So, yeah, those are my two highlights.
Excellent. Todd,
I feel bad. I don't have 2.
Okay.
Every time when I watch it, it always gets me. It's like the first big laugh. So I don't know if it's the best one, but it's the one I'm going to pick for me. And that is a Chevy Chase line. When they're talking in the locker room and Judge Smales asks him, well, how do you measure yourself to other golfers? By height. Just every time it's like the first big laugh every time I watch it.
Early on, one of the first things he says is because him and the Ty is chatting with the caddy, and he says, "I'm going to end up working in a lumberyard." He says, "That's fine. I own 2 lumberyards, but you're here." Well, I don't know where they are.
I noticed you don't spend much time there.
Okay, well, yeah. I was so fast. I was like, I got to keep up, just because I want. There was so much of it that was great.
There's 2 people I wanted to know if you guys recognized from other stuff. Both of the women, Sarah Honeycomb as Maggie O'Hooligan, whatever. Do you guys remember her from anything? She's Jailbait from Animal House.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And then the other one, the Disney connection, and that is Cindy Morgan, Lacey Underall. Do you guys recognize her? Would it help if she was in neon blue?
In the documentary, she said, I only do cult movies.
Okay, so Ozzy does the other one is Tron.
No kidding.
Yeah. She's the female lead, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into rating, there's just one story. The story ended the documentary, the 19th hole documentary, where Harold Ramis talks about how the judge, Ted Knight, goes in. This is when they're not filming. He goes into Harold Ramis's trailer. He says, Rodney's just absolutely disgusting. He's filthy. What happened? He came in my trailer and just made it just took a giant dump. And he says, well, why would he do that? He says, because he's disgusting. He's crass. I guess he did it when he wasn't there. He just assumed it was him, right? So Harold runs into Chevy Chase. He says, hey, dude, Ted just told me the crazy story. He says Rodney went into his trailer and took a massive dump. And Chevy says, no, it was me. Pointing to himself. So I think I'm gonna give this one a 5 for me.
Wow.
Because now as a movie, the plot moves slowly, but the fact that still because granted, it's supposed to be a movie about the Caddyshack itself, but it really delves into personalities that you could theoretically find at a country club, and it's those interactions because they're all these are all interactions that should at some point mix for whatever reason. So you have the guy who's super uptight, you have the crass, Rodney Dangerfield, and then you have the womanizer here. What sort of things would happen, and just to see that them naturally occur. So while the main plot, the main story of the caddy needing a scholarship moves slowly, the fact that in its place you get a lot of actual interaction that makes sense. It doesn't really feel like filler. Like even the scene with Ty and Carl, where, like I mentioned earlier, where he goes into his house or his home or whatever he's staying. That was a scene written in to the movie, but it felt like it flowed so well because Ty was practicing after they just made the bet. So that makes total sense that he would be practicing at night, and it just stuff flowed. You know what I mean? And the fact the groundskeeper is such a direct contrast to all these country club characters, it just made it constantly felt like it was moving and was just fun the entire time. So that's why I have to give it the 5. What about you guys?
Well, I when I first thought about it, right after watching the movie, I was stuck on a 3. I thought it was great, thought it was fun, thought it was kind of slow. But then when I started to think afterwards, I was like, all right, let me try to figure out what my favorite joke was. And I was going joke after joke after joke. And I was like, God, that movie was funny. And I think part of what my initial 3 reaction was because so many people said so many great things, and it was that hype train that you expect this to be the greatest movie of all time after watching it. And so your expectations are up there. And I really think that after really looking back and staying away from what's been said, I at least have to give this movie a 4. That was hilarious. It was really one joke after the other. It was a fantastic movie.
It was a machine gun of comedy.
Oh yeah.
That's what it felt like. And it almost never stopped. It felt like the only time it stopped was to advance the story. And then it just one after one. Todd?
I'm with you, Ozzy. I'm a 5. Long time favorite. I won't even hold Caddyshack 2 against it.
That has not. You can't blame him. You can't blame him. You can't downgrade The Godfather 1 or 2 because of 3.
You know what?
Right.
It's the thing now. People complain up their ass about the shitty remakes, but you know what? We grew up with shitty sequels. I'm not even going to call it Ghostbusters 2 because Ghostbusters 2 is at least watchable.
Back to the Future 2 as well.
Hey,
and
when you
Indiana
said
Jones.
when you said Ghostbusters 2, Brian Doyle Murray, who plays the actual Caddyshack owner, is the psychiatrist in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So when they're all talking about like this Vigo is gonna upend New York City, and you believe these people? Oh no, these people are all nuts.
Pretty much when you see Bill, you're going to see Brian Doyle somewhere.
Are they brothers?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. I apologize.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why you'll notice a lot of like the Harold Ramis stuff. They all came up together. Bill's just the one who hit it big. But you still see his brother in everything.
Sure. I mean, I specifically remember him as Noah Vanderhoff. Because he was the Noah Vanderhoff, owner of Noah's Arcade from Wayne's World.
Oh, there. Okay.
Because that was where, because like around 1990, when Wayne's World,
in the future.
I know, but I just wanted to say this real quick. When Wayne's World came out on VHS and they had like McDonald's where you could buy the tapes, like there was like a short time where at McDonald's you could buy VHS tapes or whatever, like for cheaper than wherever, like with a meal or something like that. And I remember getting Wayne's World, and Wayne's World was the first time I saw Brian Doyle Murray with a green screen of Sonic 1 behind him talking about video games. I was like, oh, okay. This guy is Noah Vanderhoff. Like, that's how it just happened in my head. So every time I see him, he was incredibly skinny in this movie compared to his time in Wayne's World.
40 years ago.
All of us are skinnier back then. Anyway, so we've said our ratings, and we do have Thanksgiving coming up, so we're going to jump into the Thanksgiving double feature, if you will. First, we're going to cover Dutch next week, starring Ed O'Neill, which I'm excited to revisit because I remember loving that movie the first time I saw it. I'd like recorded it off of Cinemax or HBO or whatever, and it was one of in the rotation that I used to watch all the time. And after that, we're going to have Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I'm definitely excited to rewatch.
And my rant on that one.
You have a rant on that one?
Yes, I told you last week.
I don't remember things.
I know. just like, yeah, I know.
Well, this is why the show is perfect for me to rewatch movies. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that stuff. Like, you would think I would remember the scene between Bill Murray and Chevy Chase sharing a giant joint, but yet this time I watched it tonight, I was like, this is the first time I've seen this? It's weird. And
were
anyway,
you used to the television version? Was that no? Because you have the DVD.
I have the DVD. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was definitely a fun one. We look to have another fun episode next week when we review Dutch. And once again, I'm Ozzy V. That's Greg. And that's Todd. Say goodnight, guys.
Good night, guys.
Thank you, Greg. All right. We'll see you next week here on Flesh Wound Farce. Have a good night.